Hello, Shandon family. We are so blessed to have you with us this day as we celebrate Veterans Day by talking with several of those men in our congregation and in connection with our church who are serving this country in wonderful ways as soldiers and as servants. So as we gather now, we invite you to join in on this conversation with these wonderful men. Thank you for your time. I'm with Brigadier General Scott Lamb as we discuss his military service to our country. Scott, welcome, and we thank you for being with us.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
It is our absolute pleasure. As we come together, I know a lot of folks would be very interested to find out, how did you get into the military and how did this turn into a career for you?
Okay. Well, I think somewhat quite easy from the start for me because my dad was military. I think as many stories go, flew in the Navy. He flew fighters in the Navy. We were out at Miramar in San Diego and flew in Vietnam and the like. And I think from that, and then he continued on flying for the airlines, I created a fascination with flying and thought that's something that I wanted to do. And the military was the path that I wanted to go to do that. So I started back when I was in college. I joined the South Carolina Air National Guard when I was in college. I actually enlisted as a airman first class at that time, and all with the dream of being selected to fly out at McEntire as part of the South Carolina Air National Guard flying F-16s. And so I was fortunate. My timing and my work paid off, and I was able to make that happen. And then I found that I joined for the love of flying and the thrill of flying fighters, but then I learned a lot more about the meaning of service and being in the military and have really enjoyed that ever since. And in fact, that's what has kept me in because I have been in for 35 years now, starting off enlisted and making it up to Brigadier General. Could have retired a long time ago, but I enjoy it, and it's kept me in it to this point, and I've been fortunate that I've been able to stay in it and still contribute.
We are blessed today to have with us Chief Warrant Officer 4 Bauer, an old friend of mine, and I call him Tom. Tom, welcome, and we're so glad you're with us today.
It's good to be here.
Tom, as we celebrate Veterans Day this year, we want to talk to some of our soldiers, and we're very interested to find out, how did you come to choose being a soldier in today's military?
Well, the short answer is I needed the college money. I had finished, I joined in '96, I finished graduate school, and luckily I'm probably the exception to the rule, but I got all the way through school without any debt. Thanks in large part to my folks and some work on the side. So I wanted to maintain that, and I had some buddies that had enlisted in other service branches, ran across them several times, and they encouraged me to consider it. And I was single and I already kept my hair short, so I didn't see any real problem with it. I thought, 4 years, and the GI Bill, and they had some additional monies that you could earn back in '96. So it was the college money. It just continued to go from there.
Today we are joined by CW2 Charles Veal of the Army National Guard, stationed out at Fort McEntire, and he is with us to share with us his experience as a soldier in America's military on this Veterans Day. Charles, thank you for being with us. We truly appreciate your time. We appreciate who you are and all that you have done in serving this country. And we were hoping to learn a little bit more about your service and how you became a soldier. So can you kind of tell us what prompted you to go into the military?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. First of all, thank you very much for having me. Very glad to be here. So I graduated from Drury High School back in 2001, right across the street here. And I was very vested and very active in their ROTC program. Loved it a lot. Got along with a lot of the guys in there. So that kind of laid that bedrock for me to say, the military might be something. might be something. So graduated high school, kind of lost touch with anything military related for about a year and a half, 2 years. And from there, kind of always had it kind of pulling at my brain saying, hey, you might want to do this, you might want to do this. Not that I wasn't doing good in college or pursuing it. I was, but it was like I need to do something different. Like this isn't necessarily going to be my calling, college and stuff like that. So, went ahead and called my recruiter, whom I've been talking to in high school, and started the paperwork and the processes and ended up joining the Marines.
What types of deployments or tours of duty have you seen over your 30-plus years of service?
Yes. Well, we do a lot for training just on a regular basis, and that might be anywhere around the country where we've got a lot of different training sites. That's fairly typical. We have to travel to train and find the airspace and the other things we need to practice. But beyond that, I've done 6 deployments to the Middle East, all combat type deployments. I have done trips to the Middle East working with the other countries that are in that region to help them with their defense and working with their military. I have been to the Pacific and been out to Okinawa and traveled around there, so I've almost made it completely around the world, but not quite. And then spent time working with other countries as we do in building partnerships with other nations. And I've spent time in Morocco, I've spent time in Colombia, I've spent time in Jordan, all trying to foster relationships between our country and their country, and more specifically military, but still that relationship building.
That's incredibly important work, I understand, and we appreciate it greatly. Are you at liberty to say any of the conflicts that you have participated in or any of the areas where you have served?
I can, and most of it, if the way Google is now, if you put my name in, you will find my biography and my official military, and it lists that all out. But I have Operation Iraqi Freedom, OIF. Participated in that a couple times, and when we were doing the no-fly zones over Iraq, did the northern, did the southern, flying out of the Middle East to cover those areas. I've also been flown over Afghanistan shortly after the September 11th attacks. We were sent over there as we initially started our engagement in Afghanistan. And then really my last deployment was also there in 2012, where our unit, we were in Kandahar and we were in Afghanistan and supporting the troops that were on the ground there. And that was my last major type deployment. Since then, it's been more of, as I alluded to earlier, that partnership sort of thing and building relations.
Fantastic. And how long did you serve in the Marines?
Absolutely. I served 6 years and 2 months.
And your primary responsibilities?
Absolutely. So in the Marine Corps, I was a CH-46 crew chief, which is a tandem rotor helicopter. It's got 2 rotors on top of it. It's one of the larger cargo helicopters. The Marine Corps was phasing those out. That's a Vietnam-era aircraft. They were phasing those out and bringing in the V-22 Osprey. So I deployed once on the CH-46, and I deployed again on the V-22 Osprey.
So you got out of the Marines, and then what?
Got out of the Marines with full intentions of being done with the military altogether. Like I was like, I'm done. I've had my fill, and I came back and funny story, Melinda and I actually saw a National Guard commercial on TV, just like the regular advertising commercial. And I looked at her, she looked at me, and I was like, why have we never thought about that? I don't know anything about it. Well, I don't either. So we went and talked to a recruiter. 2 weeks later, I'm putting my hand up and swearing in, and I joined the National Guard as an Apache maintainer. Yep.
So in your different military stints, in your different military work, what type of deployments, what type of activity have you seen?
Absolutely. So my first deployment was on a boat back in 2005. We were Strategic Reserve out in the Persian Gulf on the 26 Mu. And Did that, came back. That was on one helicopter. Thanks to V-22, we spent a stint in Al-Assad, Iraq, for that deployment. Basically, just kind of being a transport, cargo transport type helicopter, tilt rotor aircraft for the country of Iraq. That was when I came home from that deployment, got out of the Marines, joined the Guard, deployed as an Apache maintainer. Did that, and while on that deployment, decided that I needed to make another career move, and decided I'd go to flight school. So I'm now a Black Hawk pilot.
Fantastic, and congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And so what duty have you performed in the military?
I enlisted, like I said, back in '96. I enlisted as a trombone player, an Army bandsman. They called them Army bandsmen back then. So I enlisted to play the trombone, and so they paid me to practice, and which was good. And I got Mom was obviously very excited because I had good health care. So I spent the first 12 years of my career as an enlisted trombone player, and then due in large part to some encouragement from Deb, decided to take my education and experience and switched over into the Warrant Officer Corps, and now I'm the bandmaster and commander, and I've been doing that for approximately 12 years now also.
So you've been in, it sounds like, for 24 years?
Just went over 24.
Congratulations, and thank you for your years of service. When you say Deb, we forgot that part. Our Shandon family is very familiar with your beautiful wife, Debbie Bauer. She is our organist, and so Deb has worked for our church for about 2.5 years now. How has it been on her and your family? Because I know you've got a daughter, Katie, and how has it been on the family moving around with the military?
Well, the girls are, I refer to them as girls, I probably shouldn't. My ladies are real champs. I feel very strongly that our military families are really the hidden heroes of our military. They don't get the credit that they deserve, and they've had to deal with various levels of support along the way as well. So it has been impactful. Neither one of us, 18 some odd years ago when we got married, we didn't know I didn't know what I was getting Deb into.
The Guard is a little different than other military units, and you mentioned to me previously that you have done your entire time here of service in Colombia. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And so you've been part of the Shandon family for quite a while.
Yes, that's true. Yes, we were, my wife and I, Jenny Lamb, were married in this church back in March of '95. And I was thinking through, probably started as a member maybe a couple years before that. I originally grew up in the Atlanta area and moved to Columbia because of the Air Guard, and then have since developed my roots here.
Well, we recognize you as a strong Shandon member and a man of faith. One question I've got is, how does your faith impact your service and your duties?
One of the hardest parts about service is the struggle that's put on the family, and that's by far the toughest part. I miss being away from home when I'm away, but then I also recognize how hard it is on my family when I am away. Usually as soon as I take off, that's when things start breaking in the house. So I'm not there to take care of things that are broken. They also, the stress of worrying about my safety and what happens to me, when I'm going to be back. My wife recently did a story talking for the community Bible study, talking about my first big deployment overseas for a combat operation, and it was back in, I'm going to get the year not quite right, but I think it was, no, I shouldn't have, because this might have been my daughter was born in '97. my wife was 6 months pregnant, and we had just moved into a new house, and I'm off. For the first time, she's having to go through having a spouse that's away and really having a lot of unknowns, a lack of communication at that time, because it's not like today where I can Facebook or FaceTime or do those sort of things. And so we were talking to someone about it, and she relayed that she struggled, and a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of worries, and her faith and her trust in God's will, and that he was in control, and to try and put all those worries and things aside and just focus on that was able to help her a lot. And I will say that through all my deployments, I know that many people have struggles with their families as they're away. And at least to me, it seemed like my family was they were rock solid all the time. I know that's not true. I know they had those struggles, but I think her faith, as well as the connection with the Shandon Church, and then the same thing is I was deploying, and later when we had kids, and their participation in the church also gave them a place to go to, our Sunday school, because they're there, they're supportive, saying prayers for as I'm deployed away, and the like. It was, gave great comfort.
That is fantastic. And I know the Shandon Church has always wanted to be there for our military families. And I'm glad to hear you say that you all experienced that.
Yes,
and I
very
pray
much
that
so.
that brings you some comfort when you're away.
Yes, it does. It certainly does.
The beginning of our marriage was very unique. We got married here in Columbia at Trinity Cathedral, and about 6 months after that, we were on a plane to Germany. Like I said, hey, I wanted to go live in Germany. So 6 months in, we were in a foreign country, and she was still trying to figure out the whole Army thing. And then, as the circumstances would have it, about 6 months after we got there, I deployed in support of the invasion of Iraq. So that was, particularly rough to be a newlywed in a foreign country, living off post, and then all of a sudden to have your spouse, your husband, taken away for a year. So it was trying. That was rough on her. It was rough on everybody, but she handled it as well as she could. She was a real champ.
One question that I've got is, what does a trombone player do in the Iraqi conflict?
Well, I was on the plane on the way down there. I was wondering the very same thing. I didn't know if I was going to hunt down Iraqi trombonists and take them prisoner or something like that. That turns out that's not at all what we did. It was unique in that being part of the entry force, being part of the invasion. And it was a lot. There were a lot of unknowns. When we first got down there, we did a lot of access control. You would have a particular area that was secured, and we would both foot traffic and wheel traffic coming into the different installations. So the first 6 months or so, we were kind of that overwatch. We were access control and a little bit of perimeter stuff. So, and that went on. We got down there in March of '03, and then I think we got to Baghdad April, and we were able to fall in on our instruments, on our gear, and we kind of transitioned into what you would call primary mission. In a war zone like this, in a conflict area, we're doing morale support for the troops. As military musicians, we're pretty heavily armed, and so I kind of like to joke that we go where the USO doesn't, because we have the weapons and we know how to use them. So we'll go to the really small outposts and just give those troops a concert of some sort. We basically formed about a 12 to 15 piece rock band, kind of like a garage band. really talented musicians, and we put together a 2-hour show, and we would just, like I said, we would jump on a helicopter with our gear and go to different places, far off places, and set up and play for the troops, and then go do it somewhere else the next day. We do that for a week or so, come back, rest and refit, and then go out for another week. We also did a fair amount of ceremonial support. We would play different kinds of ceremonies. What was kind of unique for the band that I was in was the 76th Army Band was the 5th Corps Band. So as a corps level element, we actually had responsibility for the entire theater. So we would play for, we did some ceremonies for, I think, Norwegians. I remember distinctly going down to Basra near the Gulf and playing for lots of British and ceremonies. High-level British people would, individuals would come in, and we'd be there in a ceremonial aspect. So a little bit of ceremonies, a little bit of troop support, some perimeter guard.
Well, we all know that you have recently done a very difficult tour. And would you tell our congregation a little bit about that, please?
Absolutely. So, about 2 years ago, when I was, graduated flight school and everything, I was back here. I was back at McIntyre, working at McIntyre. Kind of knew a deployment was on the horizon for our medevac unit. I was in the lift unit at the time, and so I heard about that deployment and knew that I may want to be a part of that. So I went and talked to one of the guys that I knew was going on, and I said, "Hey, I want to go. Can I go?" And they were like, "Absolutely, we need you. We want you." So a few months later, after some paperwork was filed and signed, I was now in the medevac unit and training with those guys and getting spooled up on their procedures.
And how did your wife, Melinda, feel about this deployment?
She was okay with it. She was in the military as well and deployed multiple times, so she understands the calling, the need to serve, the want to serve, especially abroad. It gives you a phenomenal sense of satisfaction and gratification doing things like that.
So you're over in Afghanistan. Melinda and the boys are over here. How did Shandon impact their time without you and your time without us?
So before I even left town, we had a huge get-together at some people's houses and kind of little going-away stuff, and most everyone, if not everyone, approached Melinda and said, "Hey, if you need anything, call me. If you need anything, call me. If you need anything, call me." And she did, and they set up these meal trains, and it helped. And with two young boys at the time, they were 4 and 2, very rambunctious, going all the time, and very tough for Melinda to deal with on a daily basis. Every once in a while, you just need a little break. And when I'm halfway across the world, I can't give her that break. I can't be there for her. I can't. If it's day here, it's night there. If it's day there, it's night here, and it's it's tough. And so Shandon really stepped up, especially our journey class, our Sunday school class. They stepped up and said, "Hey, we want to help. We want to do things," and they did, and it was phenomenal. And Melinda had to call on a few people from time to time, but and they stepped up and they helped. And so to know that's there, and that they're taking care of Melinda when I'm on the other side of the world, because I can't do anything to help. I really can't. I can make phone calls, but that's it. It's nice to know that someone's there for her and they're taking care of her.
And we know that you and your family are faithful members of Shandon United Methodist Church. You are a man of God. And I wonder, how does your faith impact the role you play in the military?
Absolutely. So overseas, when you're away from your family and everyone you love and that's close to you and that you grew up with and you've known forever and ever, you're snatched out of that in a deployed situation. Yeah, you're with guys that you know and have known and have trained with and worked with, but you don't know them and love them like you do your family. But what is that one person that does go with you is Jesus and God and your faith. And that's what you take with you, and that's what you hold on to very close to yourself, and that's what you rely on when you're overseas and you're having those dark days, you're having that rough day, maybe your close friend or buddy over there is having a rough day, and you want to talk to someone. You want to talk to someone that you know will understand and help you and help him. And what better person than Jesus and God to help you through that?
Amen. So your service this is a career for you.
Absolutely.
And that impacts every area of your life. And so, how does your service impact your faith?
My service impacts my faith in a way that, kind of like I said a little bit ago, when you're overseas and you're by yourself or not with people that you've grown up with and been with, you rely on that faith. You rely on that faith. We have chaplains in the military, and they are always there with you. They are there 100% of the time to help with anything you may need, and they make it known. So you rely on them for your faith, and you rely on your own faith, and you draw from that, and that kind of molds you into a certain person. And as you're going through your career, you kind of draw from those experiences, and you just kind of go from there, I guess.
So in Afghanistan, on this last deployment, what type of work did you do over there?
So we were a medevac unit. So we were on call 24/7 to respond to anything that would happen within our ring that we were responsible for. And if the call came 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it did not matter what time it was. We go and we help these guys. We pick them up off the battlefield. We bring them back to what we call a higher level of care. And we have a phenomenal hospital there at Kandahar. A lot of great surgeons and doctors there that can fix just about anything. And that's what we would do. We would assist these guys getting off the battlefield and get them to a higher level of care.
So as you're saying that, I'm thinking about Jesus giving us two great commandments: to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and then to love your neighbor. So I see you in Afghanistan on your job in the military as a soldier, actually loving your neighbor by going and helping them, rescuing them, and serving them. I've got to believe that not all of those people were wearing American uniforms.
Definitely not.
And so it wasn't just your men that you were rescuing, our men, our people.
Right.
It was anybody.
Anybody. Did not matter.
And so, Charles, I see you living through your service. I see you living out God's great commandment, and I thank you for that. And I know your church thanks you for that. We thank you so much for your service, for allowing us the privileges that we have here when you're over there. And we thank you for your sacrifice, the time from your family, the time away from your country, time with men, but mostly strangers. And so, on behalf of your church, I simply say thank you over and over again.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
What do you love about your job?
I will say that when I was flying the F-16s and every time I landed, I had a smile on my face. And no matter how hard it was to prepare for the mission and get ready and because I probably just came off of an airline trip the night before. I'm tired. I got to go out there, work. But it was just personally very rewarding, challenging. And so on a personal level, I really did just enjoy it, and something that's hard to find in any other sorts of activities. And then there's the bigger part of supporting our nation's defense. And as I've gone through and done numerous activities that are all things that have been to support the mission of our military for the United States and for the defense of our United States, whether it be counterterrorism or supporting another country, or just, as I said, building relationships with other countries so that we can all work together and keep the world peaceful. But unique thing about the Guard is, you may or may not know, is that we also are, when we're here stationed at home, our commander is the governor. So when we are activated to deploy overseas, then our commander becomes the president, and we fall under the regular active military. So, but when we're home here, we have the opportunity to support the governor and support in national disasters. So starting with, I think it was 2015, Hurricane Joaquin, when we had the 1,000-year floods, you know, when it was raining, I was driving out to the emergency management division, getting out there, you know, trying to do our best to help support, and whether it be through search and rescue, trying to get people who were stranded due to the floods, or reconstructing dams, or doing things like that. It was a real way to participate in a sense of helping out other people. You can see the immediate effects, or sometimes because you know the people, and especially when we had the floods here in Columbia and in our own neighborhood.
Well, we are so grateful. We're so grateful for your years of service, your lifetime of service at this point. And on behalf of Shandon, I want to say thank you. And I want to say thank you to your family for the sacrifices that they have given. I'm grateful that Shandon has been able to give back to you and your family in those times of need when you were away, protecting all of us. And so on behalf of your church, we say thank you. We say Happy Veterans Day.
No, thank you.
And may God bless you and yours in your service in the years to come.
Thank you.
With the veterans that are watching this, that came before you, we talk in the church about we stand on the shoulders of those who have come before us, those saints that stood before us. What would you like to say to those veterans that served at some time ago, maybe just got out recently, or maybe it's been 20 years or more since they got out? What would you like to say to those veterans?
Well, obviously, thank you for your service, but more importantly, there's the other half of that equation is thank you for your sacrifice, which I think is a lot of the message that I try and get out is the sacrifices that we make, that we all make. Not being home. Hey, I'm in an orange shirt. There's a little college town that I'm from that right now the Army pays me not to live at home. I love my duty. I hope they love their duty. I'm sure that they perform their duty out of a sense of pride. So yeah, we were paid not to live at home, and I would say my feeling is, hey, before I would say thank you for your service, I would say thank you for the sacrifices that you made, and I would certainly hope on any level that I am continuing the legacy that everybody before me built.
Well, Tom, on behalf of Shandon United Methodist Church, I want to say thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice and your family's sacrifice. What a joy it is to know you all. And we ask that God bless you this day and all the days of your service and long into your retirement. That will come down the road.
Very soon.
Well, we thank you and we thank God for you.
Thank you.
Friends, we thank you for joining us in this evening's military salute. We thank the men who have joined us today, our current active military personnel. We thank those of you who have served in the past and are veterans. We thank God for the freedoms we have that you have helped secure. May God bless you all, and may God bless America.